That's it down there. Your numbers back. All right. Call this monthly board meeting of the Shell Rock River Watershed District to order. Roll call.
Sure. Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Pastuski,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Pistorius.
Aye. Consent agenda. Look here, make a motion to approve that. So moved. Second. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Approval of agenda and additions. Andy.
Mr. Chair, at this time, there is no additions, corrections, or deletions.
We do a vote on approval of agenda.
Yep.
Somebody make a motion.
So.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public forum.
I can talk now.
Yep.
Well, you know why I'm here. It's about the outlet on Lower Twin Lake. The beavers have closed it off entirely. There's no water leaving Twin Lakes at all. I was just wondering, now there's this culvert that's there. Is that a drawdown thing, or is that supposed to be the outlet, or how is that supposed to be kept open or not open, or what?
Scott, I'm gonna have you just give us a little update quick.
Yeah, DNR had backhoe down there, and they cleaned it out.
It lasted 2 weeks and it's plugged up tight again.
And that culvert is for equipment crossing, so DNR can access the other side. So that's there to maintain flow and everything else, the stop lock channel to the south.
Okay. So the water is supposed to be flowing through the culvert.
Yep.
My question is, why is it always plugged up?
Beavers.
Okay.
Stop it.
Okay, the beavers are there. They've been there all summer. That little cleaning out, it helped for 2 weeks. It's plugged up tighter now than it was before. How should that be cleaned out, or when should that be cleaned out again?
Well, ideally, DNR would go in and kill them,
Okay,
solve the problem, but
who do we have to go through to get some action there then?
I'm not sure. I know it was Steve Colvin last time. That who you guys called.
Okay,
Otherwise it's Janine Borland. She issues the wildlife depredation permits.
okay.
So me and Scott have talked a little bit about this, and I think what I don't ever see us getting rid of all of the beaver out there. I just think it's gonna be a perpetual issue. So one of the things I've discussed with Scott is possibly potentially going in there, removing the culvert, and actually making it basically a low ford crossing. So we'd set the same elevation, we just rip wrap it. It's potential that the beaver will still dam it up, but it'd be a lot easier to clear than trying to clear inside a culvert. Again, those are ideas that we're floating by here on our end. We would need to sit down with DNR and discuss that possibility to actually just take that culvert out and replace it with a low forage crossing. You'd have to build it up, so again, that they can move equipment across it. We have put a few of those on Wedge Creek, when we did the Wedge Creek restoration. For homeowners and for us to get equipment across to, other portions of the property, that were, bisected by the ditch. So that's something we're looking at. We understand it's a problem for you guys down in that area. Again, it's hard to control Mother Nature and her creatures. And, I think we've been working with the DNR to try to get it cleaned out for you guys. They were down there, cleaned it out. I was not aware that it was plugged back up already, but,
In 2 weeks, it's plugged up tight.
okay, so just know that we here locally are gonna work on it, and hopefully try to somewhat solve the issue. Again, even with the low Ford crossing, it's potential that they're still gonna build a dam across. It's just gonna be easier for DNR or ourselves to clean out.
So what do you think of that idea, Norman?
I don't think it's gonna solve anything, because if you're gonna make it so you can drive through there, why don't you just plug it up and take that that rock barrier you put in out and use a natural outlet? Because that's what's plugging, that's the natural outlet, and there's no water going through there because you use limestone rock in there, and they break down and everything is plugged up tight. The only reason you'd have to get across there is to get over to the natural outlet. Just leave your plugged up top culvert there and get all them rock out of there, and then you'd have your natural outlet.
Well, the natural outlet's still there. I mean, it's hard to see what the function of that
It's
is, or if it's impeding function because the lake's so low right now.
okay, but even when it was high, there was very little water going through there. Other years with the natural outlet, the lake would go down. Now, after this 5 to 6 inch rain we had a month ago, the water is back up to a level, and there's no water moving between upper and lower lake at all. And to fight with that culvert all the time, I think you'd be better off to have the natural outlet and let it go from there that way. Because anybody who goes down and looks at it and, well, there used to be beavers on the natural outlet, but it was quite a wide space there, like what you're talking about, taking this culvert out. Just clean that out of there and then let the natural outlet be. It wasn't too hard to break up the small beaver things there, but you got this area here where the culvert is, and it don't take them long to plug that up. And they plug it up tight, and there's big sticks in there, and you have to get in and physically clean out the culvert to make it work. You can't just take a backhoe on the end, and that it don't last.
Agreed. So,
And I think if you guys would exert some pressure on the DNR to get a trapper in there to clean out, there must be a pretty good colony of beavers in there now. And earlier this spring, they caught one out of a beaver out of there, and it worked for about a month or so. Things stayed open and things worked good, but now they've moved back in again, and so you have to aggressively get after them beavers, and then that's the first thing, and then, but like I say, it don't take them long to plug that thing up. There's ample sticks and mud, and poof, there she's all plugged up again.
yep.
Well, I trust you guys, okay? I trust Norman and Virgil down there. So you guys got to work together and with these two gentlemen and get it fixed. Right? And help them talk to the DNR and get it done. But get it done the way they want it done. That's my opinion.
Question. Can I ask what size culvert it is? Is it a 24, 36 inch or
36 inch.
36? Okay. So what about extending the culvert, let's say 100 feet into the lake, would it widen out enough that the outlet to the lake would be in a little ways instead of let them?
It's a possibility, but I think what they're trying to do is stop flow, so they have water to overwinter. So I think it don't matter. I think, the best route would be actually taking it out, so you have a spot you can control, with cleaning, so.
Okay, I like that, but then I also like his natural deal. Can you do both?
Well, the natural deal, we spent quite a bit of money putting in that rock barrier to prevent carp flow. I can't, as of right now, tell you that it's impeding water downstream of the natural channel, because the channel's still open. The rock dam that we have is further down. And the water's just been so low all summer, even with the increase in water depth. It's hard to tell what that function is. I would say, it's always been in our mind that if we do have issues with that rock fish barrier, that at some point we would go in and remove it. I just don't know if we've had, it's only been in for a year and a half. We haven't had good flow to see what it functions like during normal water conditions, normal water levels. But yeah, if it tends to be a problem where it's backing water up, we would probably go in there and then remove it at that time.
Another thing on the fish barrier, the carp barrier. I was watching it during May. Every day I would go down there and clean out the aquatic life and stuff would get caught in the the fish barrier, so the water would keep flowing. That was fine. Memorial Day, the carp come up the stream, and they was just thick on both sides of this carp barrier. And one side of the carp barrier is about this much lower than the other. There's two sections, about 5 or 6 foot sections. And the carp were jumping over this where it was lower. I didn't know if I authorized or not, but I made some boards and put on top so that the carp would not get back up into the lake. And it frustrated them for about 3-4 days, and then they finally left and went the other way again because they couldn't get up into the lake. So with removing the rocks, the carp would naturally come back up in, but it didn't stop them this year. But now the beavers are plugging it up so the water isn't leaving. So it's one way or the other, but
Yep, normal, work with the DNR to try to find something that will work
Okay.
down there.
that's what I'm here for.
Okay, good.
Yep, thank you, Gary. Thank you, members.
Anything else for the public forum? Item 5, Andy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on the agenda is the Fountain Lake Restoration Project update. For those who don't know, the dredge is out of the water. They took that out last week. I believe they're finishing up taking some of the smaller pontoons and stuff off the lake this week. In front of you is the map of what has been dredged in the last 4 years with both contract 1 and contract 2. You can see that we've reached almost all of our design depths except for a few areas. What I do want to note though is in area 10, if you can see that furthest to the east in the picture. There is some areas there that are green that we did not get to because that is above what we originally contracted for. But I wanted to make sure that we got all the way to the channel and along the dock spaces there to the northwest of the channel. Everything along the cemetery, I told them to leave at this time and we'll put that into contract 3 as we move to get secure funding for contract 3. You'll also see a green area just west of area 10. That area also they did not get. One thing that's unique about that area, it's pretty much all sand and gravel that we are dredging. If you go out to the CDF cell 3, We pretty much have a sand castle out there, probably about 30 feet tall. So that material is quite stackable, and it has been stacked. So we're not using volume out of our ponds. So again, that area would be an area that we would go back after in contract 3. So they did reach their total volume for both contracts of 1,266,000 cubic yards material removed from all those areas on the lake, including Edgewater and Danes Bay. So again, moving forward with contract 3, we're going to be looking at everything east of where contract 2 finished up, and then our limited dredging up into Bancroft Bay. With that being said, I do have them here in the next week or two, going to be going out and resurveying both cells 1, 2, and 3 to determine what we have for room remaining in those cells, which we could then use for contract 3. Will also let us know then what we would need for additional space to hold what we estimate we're going to be pulling out of the lake in contract 3. So when I get those results back, I'll update the board on what we feel we'll have space for. I believe it's going to be somewhere around 250 to 300,000 cubic yards of material. So that would put us, if we look at the tentative quantities right now for contract 3, we're between that 500,000 and 600,000. So we'd be looking at finding additional room for 300 to 250,000 cubic yards of material. So once that survey is done, I will reach back out to you. Moving then into phase 3, we still have Ramboll working on the design scope and permitting for phase 3. They continue to work on that. Hopefully at the next meeting, I can give you an update on 30% plans on the dredge cuts in those areas. Along with that, on November 9th at 5:05, we do have the House Bonding Committee coming down to the Edgewater Pavilion. It would be nice to have as many board managers there as we can. We will be giving a presentation on our phase 3 of the dredge project. Also, the city will be giving a presentation on their wastewater treatment plant. So, we want a good turnout from you guys, and then to also catch their ear after the presentation's done on the importance of finishing Fountain Lake. So just a quick update.
It's a nice facility, but it's not very acoustic.
Yeah, the acoustics could be better, but
We definitely need acoustics at this meeting.
yes.
They added the sound panels up top. That made a big difference. That was fairly recent.
Okay.
Is in place when we did our tour stuff.
Yeah, it was better.
Yeah, much better.
What was that date again?
November 9th at 5:05 PM. And we have them for, I believe, 45 minutes between the two agencies. So again, please turn out for that if you can. Also, we are also working with the Senate side in Representative Dornick. I believe they're still working on setting up tours for the Senate Bonding Committee. It sounds like we're still in the queue for that, but we don't have any defined dates if and when they're going to be here. So I will keep you guys updated on that as well. This would be the first time that we had both House and Senate bonding tours down, if we do get both of them. So that's a good thing for us to be present and definitely grab their ear and show them what success our project has been so far. Any questions on the Fountain Lake project? Just another update on that. We did talk with the city. We did get approval to leave the parking pad out there at the Edgewater Park for them. They are going to remove all their equipment and the fence, but we're going to leave the electrical and the pad for them out there. The city was fine with that. as well as their piping. We're working on reaching out to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to allow them to store some of their pipe out at the transfer station. If that don't work though, we will allow them to store the pipe out at the CDF cells 1, 2, and 3. So that is some of the stuff that they're planning on doing. I have asked them to put their pipe in the back of the property and not up front by the gates, just so it looks aesthetically pleasing and we don't get any complaints there. I've also asked them to just remove any of the piping that would be around the CDF cells that would inhibit us from mowing or maintaining the berms. And they were definitely in favor of that for us. So any questions? Otherwise, I'll move on. All right, seeing none, I'm gonna move on to item B, which is a motion to accept the 2020 audit as presented by Hill, Benda, Scove, and Burnow. And Mr. Chair, if I can get a motion, and then we can discuss it a little bit.
Fair make it.
Motion.
Sorry. Second. We're in discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As every year, we have our audit completed. This year was completed by Hill, Benda, Scove, and Burnow. Again, no major issues with our audit. It's always the same few items that come up. And one is just due to the size of our office and the size of the number of employees we have. That oversight is always a big one. You know, we try to do our best. We sort of have a procedure in place where all the invoices that come in for our contracts, it don't matter. Whoever the project manager is signs off on those invoices first. Then they come to me, I sign off on them. And then the final step is you guys approving it here at the meetings and then signing the checks. So it's really hard to have more oversight. It's just something that we're always going to be, it's always going to be talked about just because of the size of our office. Other than that, there were no major issues within. We did have, I believe, 3 invoices that did slip by with the whole. I'm blaming COVID, but you know, COVID did change some of our procedures with most of us working at home. We did have 3 invoices that did get paid prior to board approval. We now have a plan in place that does not happen. I believe those invoices totaled about $10,000, but again, the board did see those at a later time. So other than that, that were the only main issues. However, I do still plan on having 3 people from the exec committee go down and meet with Burnow, ask some questions to him. And once that happens, then if those board members want to bring it back at the next following board meeting and just give an update, that'd be a good thing. So that's all I have for discussion on this one, Mr. Chair.
You're looking for approval today.
Yep.
So any other discussion?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Pasuski,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Pistorius.
Aye. Approved. Courtney Phillips.
All right, the first item I have is the waterways update. So this project is being funded by Bowser Targeted Watershed, and the waterways have to be completed by December 31st of this year. So the location of this is the remaining farm ground that was outside of our purchase for the wetland restoration. Over the last couple of years, there have been some aggressive gullies that have been forming. There's a good change in elevation between that field from the upper end to where the water or the wetland is. And so we're using grant funding that was the same funding source as the wetland restoration to be able to fix those gullies and install some waterways. We put it out for quote to about 6-7 contractors. However, we only got 1 quote back. People are really busy after COVID. So D Cook Drainage out of Byron was the awarded contractor for $22,138.92. And this is within engineer's estimate for construction costs. So again, we just wanted to be transparent, show the board the plans, know that this is gonna be taking place this fall, and that it's gonna be grant funded. There's gonna be no landowner costs associated with this.
Al?
So, is there any tile included in underneath the waterways in this bid?
Yep, so if you look, you can see where there's proposed tile reroute, so they'll be connecting to the tile that's in the agricultural field to the south, and it'll be rerouted alongside. And then also you can see the profiles of that tile on the second page. So yes, there is some tile that's gonna be capturing water from the upland areas and rerouting it around.
Okay. The people in agriculture, I guess if you pattern tile farms, a lot of these waterways are optional then. I've done a couple of them where we pattern tile and then erosion just disappears then. I'd like to see the tile involved in the waterways when I'm doing it, otherwise the surface erosion again. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. The next item I have is the Losard Sam's update. So we did apply for phase 11 of our habitat restoration program to the Losard Sam's Council. We requested roughly $3.5 million. Well, we had our allocation meeting last Thursday, and we were awarded a dollar amount of $1,242,000. So we got another good chunk of change coming from us, or coming from the Losard Sam's Council. So staff will be working on the accomplishment plans that are due the end of this week. Again, these funds will not be available to us until the end of next legislative session. This is just a tentative dollar amount that they have right now. Budget forecasts can change when they get their November and February forecasts. But right now it's looking like we will receive $1,242,000 out of next legislative session for phase 11. Always exciting.
And she's disappointed.
Yeah, that's all right. I never thought I'd be disappointed with $1,242,000, but I was hoping for a little bit more this year, but it is what it is. We'll still get some good projects done, and we just had a lot of need this year. A lot of landowners came to us and wanted to get projects done, so it's great that we have that need. One of the things that Losard Sam's Council kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say dinged us on, but we still have dollar amounts out there. And getting to the next bullet point, we did recently close out 2 grants, but we had quite a few grants that were open at the time of when we applied. And so they wanted us to see us spend some more of those funds before we got more. Well, we have the Shell Rock River restoration projects that are going to be closing next May, or substantial completion is March. That's about $1 million. We had the Bancroft property acquisition closed last month. That was about $500,000 or a little more. And we're gonna have a wetland restoration project completed next spring. That's about $300,000. So we are completing projects. And one of the things that, people who apply for this grant funding is that you give us 5 years to do the project, but you're gonna ding us if we don't get it done within that 5 years. So you can go around and around, and a lot of the new Losard Sam's Council members see, oh, you have a lot of funds out there. They think we're not spending it. Well, they don't understand the process that these grants take time, or the projects take time to get completed, whether it be permitting or what have you. So we have not had to return any funds or haven't got a project completed. So that's just how I would say the one little ding is because we still had a large amount of funds out there. They'll get fine.
Thank you. Any questions? Support?
I just say very good job going after those funds and finding the need that's gonna help the districts, and really great job with that.
Thank you. So the next item I have is, like I mentioned, we closed out some grants, so we wanted to bring forward the board of the outcomes that were completed. So 3 of them were closed out this last year, or I would say in June is when the grant timeline ended. It took some time to get some bills in and get everything paid. But for the final outcomes, for the Losard Sam's phase 4, and I'm looking at this little sheet that I handed out. We received $2,414,000 as a result of our, original accomplishment plan. What was actually spent was $2,405,200, so that's a difference of $8,800. I think that's pretty dang good when you have $2.4 million that you're working with to try and get your projects completed. So we came within $8,800. That money was returned to Lessard Sam's. As far as leverage realized, we originally said that we were gonna contribute 60,000 of in-kind as leverage. Well, it ended up being 65,900, so that was an increase of $5,900. Normally, Lessard Sam's like seeing that you leveraged more, because it looks better from them too, because they report what other grant sources are, leveraging their funds, so that always looks good. So phase 4, we're really happy with those results. Moving on to Lessard Sam's phase 5, we were appropriated 1.2 million. Our final reported amount was $1,157,200 for a difference of $42,800. That one is a little bit different different as far as cost. We did have that money allocated to all be spent. However, when we were doing the Miller Track wetland restoration, Jensen Excavating and Trucking actually came in under contracted price. So all of those funds were allocated. It's just we got the project done for cheaper, and so we didn't need to spend the funds. So that's why there's a larger difference that was returned back to the state for that one. Not that big of a deal. We got all projects completed. The one thing that I do want to note is that the leverage that was realized, we originally had $40,000 that was going to come from our general funds towards the grant. However, that was the phase that we had the Miller Track wetland restoration, and we were able to leverage U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service buying that parcel. And so they bought it for $461,000. And so we were able to use the federal dollars that they used to purchase that as in-kind and leveraged realized. So that difference of $421,000, none of that came from our general fund dollars. So in that phase, we were able to secure $1.2 million without actually having to put a penny of general fund dollars towards that grant because of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And we were able to look really good in Lessard Sam's eyes because we were able to use that as match because they like federal match. So that was a really good outcome of phase 5. Hopefully I described that good enough if there's any questions. But our last project that we completed was our LCCMR credit trading pilot program. This one came in very close as well. Funds allocated was $300,000. We ended up spending $299,073 for a difference of $927. We didn't have any in-kind match towards that grant that was reported. So again, these are the final closeout dollar amounts that we had for our grants.
Questions? Manager report.
Nope, as far as I know, there hasn't been a meeting. We don't have one.
Management items. You see the list of upcoming meetings. Any questions on that?
Our annual meeting is the same night as the thing at Edgewater. Check the timing on that.
I'm in the midst of looking at that, reviewing that, to see what we're gonna do. So yeah, most of these, the Minnesota Water Conference, the Bowser Academy, and MOD has switched. They were originally going to be in person. All 3 of those have switched to being virtual. So again, those will all be virtually done. Again, if you want to register, please let Leah know, and we can get you registered and get you a password and stuff for the online courses. So yes. That's all I have on the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other items? Motion to adjourn. There's a second. We are adjourned.